Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you the mixed media canvas that I made for my kid. His birthday's in February, and earlier in the month you saw a card that I made that kind of matches this one with the same type of papers. But this is the canvas that he asked for at Christmas and I didn't get done, and I'm now just getting it done for his birthday. It's only a couple months difference, whatever. So this canvas features Buckethead, and Buckethead is a musician from Southern California. My son really, really likes him and has a lot of his music, and he listens to it all the time. Buckethead has a lot of variety of music, but it's all guitar, pretty much um, no vocals in it, just instrumental electric guitar music. So I'll tell you some more about that in a bit when I'm painting, but I did want to tell you what I'm doing. So I started out with a canvas. I believe it's 18 inches by like 24 inches or 26 inches. It's larger than I normally work. It's probably the largest size that I could possibly fit on camera. Generally, I do film everything that I do, almost all of what I do, except for maybe commission work. So I usually tend to work in smaller sizes. So it's fun to do something a little bit bigger. I picked out a lot of prints, and I'm kind of obsessed with the orange and blue combination colorway right now, and I wanted to do that. So these are gel prints. Some of them are on tissue paper, some of them are on black text weight paper, and some of them are on white text weight paper. So I took a ruler, a metal ruler, and in some cases a little bit of spritz of water, and I tore them up into different rectangles and squares and strips depending on the design. Kind of, some of them are actually roll off paper, so I really had to focus on those. But I wanted interesting pattern and design using the colors of blues and oranges and yellows. The picture that I picked, I looked at a lot of pictures of Buckethead online, and the one that I'm using as inspiration, he was wearing a yellow, uh, looked almost like a raincoat. I'm not sure. It's kind of an interesting guy, but it's yellow. So I wanted some oranges and yellows and colors in there too. So I want to start at the bottom with the darkest colors. When you go to a rock concert and somebody's up on stage, it's generally dark, and the stages are almost all black, painted black, and the equipment is black. The amplifiers and things like that are generally black boxes with, yeah, just black boxes with dials. So I wanted all the stuff at the bottom to look like the stage. So it's got rectangles because on rock stages there's rectangles. Like everything is in the shape of a rectangle. They have things stacked up and they're all rectangles. So I wanted squares and rectangles. I wanted dark colors at the bottom, but not boring. I didn't want it to be just like a black line with black below it. I wanted it to have pattern and interest, but still be dark. And then I wanted to start varying the colors as I went up to the top of the canvas, making the warmer, brighter papers be at the top, because generally there's a lighting system at a rock concert, some kind of big black bars with all kinds of things that look like buckets with different colored lights coming off of them, and sometimes they flash, and sometimes there's lasers, and I wanted this abstract collage background to remind you of that type of an experience without being a duplicate of it, because I wanted it to be more interesting than that, because it's just when you go to a concert, you're going there to see the people who are playing. You're not going there to see, the stage. It's not a stage show like a theater. It's more just a bunch of black boxes with somebody in front of it, and usually there's a drummer and a guitarist. And I go to a lot of concerts because my my family's really into it, and so we go often to different types of rock concerts, whether they're some of the names from the 80s or whatever, hair metal, or sometimes things around locally. Tucson has a really good local scene with lots of cover bands and things like that. So we'll go out and see those sometimes. I've never seen Buckethead myself in concert, but my sons have seen him multiple times. And also, there's apparently a guy hanging around Arizona named Bucket Fingers, and he does a tribute band to Buckethead, so they've seen him as well. So as you can see, I'm varying the colors and getting lighter and lighter as I go to the top of the canvas. Of course, I turned it upside down so that I could work on the other side easier. The final canvas will be the other direction. So as far as how I'm going to get Buckethead on there, I I looked at pictures and I printed out some pictures, and I wanted to paint Buckethead on there, but I thought, you know what would be easier? And this is something I learned from other people, and it's smart. When I draw people, they turn out whimsical. They're not, their proportions are not the correct. They don't look exactly, they're more like a caricature or an illustration of something than an actual realistic person. So it would be a struggle for me to draw Buckethead and have him actually look like he does, you know? It would be it would be a caricature because that's just my style. I don't come out with realistic looking people no matter how hard I try. And so I decided to print a photo from the internet. This is common use photos that are not copyrighted. And I altered it by making it into grayscale with a photo editing software, and I cut it out, and obviously it doesn't, it's, you know, I'm going to alter it. Its legs are not all the way down, and it's black and white, and I will be altering it, but it gives me the shape without drawing of what Buckethead actually looks like, you know, not a caricature, but an actual sort of realistic picture. Of course, by the time I paint over it, it's still going to be a caricature because it's just the way it is. But at least it gives me a guideline to paint um, better, to make it more realistic. So then I'm using IArt fluid media acrylic paint, and it just takes the tiniest little bit of this paint. It's already fluid, so you don't have to mix a bunch of water with it like you would a heavier body paint, and you just need like a drop. It's very pigment intense, so it's great for doing this type of work. And I'm using oranges and reds to start with, and then of course black and white. Carbon black and titanium white feature a lot in this process because I use them to tint or shade the colors as I'm going. I don't have a pure color for every single color that I need, so I need to mix colors, and that's what I do. So a little bit about Buckethead. His real name is Brian Patrick Carroll. I think he's currently about 45 or something. He's a guitarist from Southern California, and he started playing guitar at age 12. His mask that he wears, which means nobody really knows what he looks like. There are a few Buckethead unmasked things, but it's like younger pictures. Nobody really knows what he looks like for sure. Like you wouldn't just be able to see him on the street and say, "Hey, there's Buckethead." He bought that mask, the plastic mask, um, because it's the one from Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and he thought it was creepy and cool, and he bought it at Halloween. And then at that same time, he put on the mask and he was eating a tub of fried chicken, and he just put the bucket on his head and said, he went to the mirror, he looked at himself and said, "This is Buckethead. That's Buckethead right there." And so that became his alter ego, his persona that he uses. I'm not sure how much you can see through those holes. I mean, that would really drive me crazy. And it would be hot, sweaty. Ugh, not what I would pick. But that's what he does. And I think he just likes the to be a little bit private so that he can, you know, be on stage or be wherever and then not be seen later out on the street and everyone knows who it is. He just likes to be private, and I can certainly understand that. He's about the um, the music and the art, and not about being a superstar or whatever. I never show my face on camera, although you have seen pictures of me. I'm never on camera, and so if you would just prefer to not be in the public eye so much, um, I guess you could put a bucket on your head and a mask on your face. So this guy has released more than 250 albums, and in 2014 he released 40 albums just in that year. Um, this is from discography.com. He did work for Buckethead worked for Guns N' Roses on their 2008 album Chinese Democracy, and he even toured with them. But he didn't stay with them very long, and as far as I know, that's the only band he's ever played with. He's generally a musician who um, plays his guitar and makes his music, and then has studio musicians if he needs, drums or whatever, or he might just do it electronically. Um, He's considered to be one of the fastest guitar players of all time, according to Guitar World. He's number 6 in a recent compilation of fast guitarists. Who are the fastest guitarists? I'm sure that includes, maybe, I don't know, maybe some of the guys from G3, like Stevie Vai, and I don't know even, but anyway, he's fast. He's fast. You guys should look up his music. He has some, you know, rocky type loud music, but he also has some very calming and soothing music. And my son actually made downloaded a bunch of music and put it on my mother's phone for her to listen to, because he even has one that's called For Mom, and it's calming and kind of zen like. You could meditate to it. So I'm continuing to paint. Like I said, he was wearing kind of a yellow, slick looking jacket, and I'm mixing colors, mixing some different oranges and yellows together, and some white to make the different shadows. And I paint the shadows first, and then go in and start adding the highlights, and then I go in and start adding some darker lines because I'm into illustration lines. I had to mix my own skin color, and I mixed kind of a grayish brown for the shadows, and then I lightened it up with a little bit of pink, some magenta, and some white to make a more brighter color. Added in a little bit of gray to add those shadows of where the muscles and tendons would be on your hands. I kind of had to wing it because my printout wasn't a high quality printout, so I had to wing it on a lot of this actually. But I could see indications of where things were, and then I just had to kind of make up what I thought they might look like. So, and figure out where the shadows and highlights would be, imagining that the brightest light is coming from the left hand side is what I did. When you're painting something that needs to have shadows and highlights, you got to think about where the light's coming from. That's like the first thing you decide. And I decide that there's some big stage lights to the left of the stage coming in that are giving him a pretty bright highlight on that left side. I think he's wearing cargo pants. I can't really tell, but from the way the creases and some of the highlights were hitting the part of the pants that I did have, it looked like cargo pants. So he's got some pockets on the side and in the front to maybe put guitar picks and pick up leads and things in, I guess. He has long curly hair, and it's kind of brown, and I think it gets reddish highlights in the lights, but it's probably dark brown or black when you look at it just regular. But he's probably picking up a lot of reds and yellows from the lights, the gels above him. So that's how come I put a lot of warmer tones in the hair, and then trying to keep the dark towards the underside. Um, a lot of gray and white on the mask, trying to make it look, well shadowed and molded like that weird plastic mask would be from Halloween movies. Creepy, very creepy. So this was fun. I decided that it needed a few more things to make it look like a stage and to kind of fill up a little bit of the space. So I decided to make one of those light bars. And in a couple pictures that I saw on the internet, it looked like the person who was taking the picture was down below, like maybe the stage was pretty high and they were standing on the ground looking up. And so it had like this angled, interesting shapes towards the back behind him. Not straight across, but at an angle. This is kind of interesting. So I was inspired by that, and I just drew them on with a Stabilo All pencil. And then I used the black and the white paint to paint in the shapes, the bars, and then there's one to the left that's kind of going vertically that's holding some bigger lights to give the idea of the main light coming from the left-hand side. One of the lights had a kind of like a shade around it in the picture. I don't know, like a something that points it or something. And anyway, yeah, I also did after I started realizing that the light was coming in onto my desk, and so my time was up. But I continued working after this, and I put some shadow around that major thing on the right hand side that looks like a black box down there. I put shadows around that, and I did just a tiny bit of stenciling down the front with some like light colored bars that made it look kind of like maybe there were lights or buttons on it, just to give the idea of a big amplifier. It doesn't look like an amplifier, but it gives the idea of it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this was a fun project. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, of course, thumbs up, guys, thumbs up. And, you can leave me a comment or question. Um, you can subscribe. You can share this if you think somebody might be interested in watching this video about how I made this canvas. For the lights, I did fill in with white first because I know that the yellows and reds and orange type colors are sometimes translucent. Well, the yellow is always translucent. There's no yellow in artist colors that is opaque. So I wanted to make sure that I made them nice and bright looking, and I used darker color and then faded up to a lighter color to make them look dimensional. So I put some yellow lights, some red lights, some green lights, blue lights, like you would have on a stage. So that is it for me. Yeah, you can share this if you want to on Pinterest or something like that. I forgot. I don't know if I said that or not. But I've got to get this thing in the mail. So he gets it by his birthday along with some home baked treats. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye bye.